find your flow, follow the map. Mile high dreaming's got your back. Denver sky.
Well, we would like to welcome to the stage the Women's Founders Panel. This is their third year being here, and it is my great pleasure to announce them because basically I've been waiting all year. The past two have been so inspirational. I'm very excited to hear you speak today. So without further ado, I'll pass this to you.
Testing.
And I'm going to pass this one to you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to get started by thanking our sponsors. Make sure you guys check out the vendor hall. Make sure you say hi to everyone and see what amazing technology is out there for the Salesforce ecosystem. We are going to start off by doing a brief introduction of the wonderful women that are up here today. So going in order, we have Stephanie Hagen, founder and CEO of the CRM firm. We have Heather Cooper, COO of the Baker Law Group and former CEO of Cloud Coach. And we have Blakely Graham, founder and former CEO of TaskRay. So I'm going to give them a moment to briefly introduce themselves and we'll get started with questions.
Good morning. It's 11:30. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie Hagen. I'm the CEO and founder of the CRM firm as well as FirmWorks, which is an ISV. So the CRM firm is an SI. We have been just crossed our 10-year in business in July. So excited to be here. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Heather Cooper. I am right now the COO of Baker Law Group. So in the middle of a Salesforce go live right now, bringing that to the law firm. So that's been a lot of fun. And I'm formerly CEO of Cloud Coach, a really wonderful PSA project management tool on Salesforce.
Perfect lead in. I'm the founder of TaskRay and former CEO and number one competitor better PSA than Cloud Coach. I'm just kidding. We're really both good solutions.
Here?
Yes? Well,
I don't think so.
former TaskRay employees here. Founded that in 2010. And walked away from the business in 2021, so led that for 11 years. And now I'm actually excited to be on my next venture, which is hosting a podcast with this lovely lady about what it's like to be competitors turned friends.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you, ladies. So we crowdsourced questions from LinkedIn and from other colleagues over the last couple of weeks. So I will be prompting the ladies here with some questions. If you guys have any that you'd like to ask live or towards the end, please feel free to speak up. So to get started, what parts of your career benefit from being a woman and what part hindered it?
Well, I will kick us off. I'm always looking for the silver lining. I think what benefited me is learning what not to do, from how I was treated, what I was said, like throughout the tech career, which has made me, I believe, a better leader and created a better environment for my team.
Yeah, I would say my intuition. I think that I really have a gift of understanding where my team is at on a deeper level, maybe just feeling like, okay, this person, I can tell that they're down, leaning into that, finding out why, which ultimately resulted in so many great process changes for the company, because once you're talking to the person who's actually doing the job and you can sense that there's something off, there's usually a reason and a better way to do it, that it can be fixed. And so I think leaning into that intuition has been a huge asset.
I feel like I'm going to give like the unfiltered version. That was really sweet and nice. But the hinder is like, for a long time, you just have to work twice as hard with different set of rules, right? And so that was a huge hindrance. And the benefit that I think is a little unfiltered is there was a period of time which I got to leverage being a female CEO because there's just aren't very many of us. And so we got featured a lot in press, and Salesforce actually put us on stage a lot. And that was a huge benefit for our company and a leg up. And it's kind of, I part got there because I was just a woman, but I was just a badass CEO woman. And so I found it to be okay to take advantage of it. So that was a benefit, but we're still playing by different roles.
Yeah, that's good.
Speaking of unfiltered, the next question is how do you handle the balance of being seen as a strong leader versus a witchy female?
Well,
Of course, that mic is in my hand. Damn it. Okay. This is such a great question. The first thing that comes to mind is tone of voice. I think speaking less and speaking at the right moment and not responding and reacting before I have my thought together, because I think at least the boardrooms I've been in have about a 10 to 15 second window before they decide if you're worth listening to anymore. And so making sure that when you start speaking that they don't start tuning out, checking their phone, moving on because you're just rambling and they just are waiting for you to stop. So tone of voice has been huge.
You ready?
I'm always ready. I can talk all day, Heather. You know that. First of all, witchy women, we called them bitchy women in the 90s, and we all worked for like a really bitchy boss. Like the women were tough. And I totally get it. And I get why they were tough, because they were fighting and clawing, right? And so I think there's a bad rap there. Like if you get to know the witchy women, they're not witchy at all. They had a strategy that they had to use to get to where they're going. I think now it's progressed into the positive. I have a real rough time with my tone of voice. I just sound like a valley girl no matter what. So it's like, not much I can do about it. But I do think female leaders have an opportunity not to be witchy anymore, and they have an opportunity to be authentic, and that is a huge benefit for culture and in the workplace. And so just lean into that one.
I think I've been starting to become aware of this, and I kind of attribute it to driving a bus. Sometimes I'm driving the bus, sometimes I'm a passenger, I'm listening, I'm interacting with the team, and going into conversations with my team, I try and let them know, hey, I'm showing up like this, so that they don't take it as I'm like in this conversation, I'm going to be driving the bus. So I'm not meant to be witchy or bitchy or saying the things, but coming in there and letting them know who I'm going to be in that conversation. Because as a CEO, sometimes I'm a visionary, sometimes I'm in a get things done mode. So letting them know how I'm going to show up in that conversation so that they can respond to me.
When you also have things going on in your personal life, so how do you balance, or do you have any tips on balancing being a leader, showing up to work the way that you need to, and then letting people know who that is in that moment? Being
human, I would say, is giving yourself the grace to show up and be human and realize that there is not a boundary between work and personal. If something happens in your personal life, it is not human to show up and not have it affect your day. And that's the same with your team, no matter that. So give yourself grace, I'd say.
Mine is doing squats while I blow dry my hair. I'm not kidding. It's great. Shut up. You have time to go to CrossFit. You're retired. No, if I got, that's true though, because there's a bit of a double standard for 8 a.m. meetings start. And if you're going to show up and look professional as a woman, you have to have your hair washed and cleaned, and you need to look presentable and have your face have nice lotion and chapstick on it or makeup or however you decide to present, and you have way more outfit choices to choose from. And so it's a whole thing. So if I'm going to get to a meeting by 8 and I have to be on the road by, so let's say 7, then I've got to be up, showered, dressed, worked out. Like my day's starting at 5 versus, God bless my husband, who I love dearly, as bald as they come. And he can, he has 4 shirts and 5 pairs of pants. So it's just like he can sleep longer. His turnaround time, it's just to fit it all in is really tough to balance that. And so I think it's prioritizing that and getting the moments as you can fit them in. So 50 squats while I'm bent over doing my hair in the morning. blow drying it.
I didn't know you did 50 squats a day. I do. Let's go with the next question. How about that?
All right, I'm going to take one from LinkedIn. It is, what part of success feels lonelier than you expected?
Oh, wait, I didn't even hear the question.
What part of success feels lonelier than you
Oh,
expected?
this one's real. This is like one of the best questions. I used to say being a CEO is the loneliest job in the world, but really it's being a founder and CEO, an entrepreneur is the absolute loneliest job in the world. And it's not because there aren't great people on your team or people supporting you, or you might have a great partner. Just the buck stops with you. And it is absolutely such tremendous stress constantly going on in your brain 24/7. I did anything to try to get that lessened. I would join CEO clubs thinking, oh, they might see me, they might understand. It doesn't take away the fact that you have to make sure payroll happens and you have to make sure your team is taken care of and customers taken care of. And I've not ever been a lonely person. And that was very, very hard for me. And it was very hard.
I agree. And I would say as CEO, you are uniquely positioned to be the only person that can see every single part of the organization at the same time and how all of those pieces are coming together. And then you're dealing with your management team and leadership team who are only seeing it from their perspective down. And so balancing the egos in that, balancing priorities in that, there's not really anybody that can understand exactly where you're coming from at all times. So that piece feels very, very lonely because there's nobody else that really understands it.
I'd say on both sides of, everything from payroll to making those decisions, like we make big decisions. And sometimes we do see all these different aspects and we've got to pull the trigger and it's on our shoulders. I was up at 4 a.m. thinking about things and I can't tell you how many times I've seen 4 a.m. on the clock. Too many to count. And then also on the flip side, the successes, you don't celebrate them in the same way and you can't. It's so I think it's hard because you're carrying the weight and also you can't be happy when you actually have a win, or you're always the cheerleader for your team and that's great and we love showing up that way, but it's challenging because we don't also you're on to the next thing. You just keep trucking, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
We had to remind Stephanie to celebrate her 10-year anniversary in business this summer.
Thank you, guys.
So speaking of decisions too, is there a particular smaller decision or any decision that had a big impact, kind of reflecting on a moment in time?
Yeah, sure. Always ready with the answer. This was a huge decision, but it was small in terms of cost. And that is, we decided to document our values. And we started the company with a very, very strong set of values. In fact, that's one of the reasons for our being is we wanted to run a company very, very differently. We didn't document them. We didn't want to be a cliche, get values printed and put them in the wall. But Tim knows we did actually put them on the wall. But when we just took a minute to step back and document who we were, it made every single decision in the company easier. We started hiring to those values. We started firing to those values. We started educating our customers to those values and how we showed up for them. It became a very unifying piece of work, body of work, that ended up kind of being the glue to our entire flywheel, so to speak. So big decision, low cost, very important.
It's good. Do you want to?
So building on that, I think once the vision is clear, the decisions became a little easier. I think that's what we found as well. We've been implementing EOS. Like, I started the company with a very distinctive vision of who we wanted to be and the why behind it. And through early on, I mean, it's hard. It's a lot of, you're in the business, you're working on the business, you're selling, like, you're doing all these different roles. And who you are, I mean, if someone wanted us to implement something, we're like, we'll figure it out. And then as we matured, we could say, this is what we do. This is who we are. This is what we're going to say yes to and what we're going to say no to, and work with great partners. So.
I'd just add that, I think there's two different ways that the decisions happen, at least at Cloud Coach. So there's like the technical side, there's the product side, and what kind of decisions are we making with features, and how's that going to slow us down or make things faster. And so there was a decision, okay, we need to not do 2 or 3 feature releases until we move our whole code base from Angular 1 to Angular 2, right? So that's a major decision, huge long-term impact. But those types of decisions are only as good as the team that you have executing them. And so one thing that I did when I initially moved from COO to CEO was I did one-on-ones with everybody in the company. We had already set out the vision and the values because we were like, well, Taskery's doing it. I guess we should probably come up with some too and put them on the wall and blah, blah, blah. No. Anyway, so we do that. We make the decision on the values. And then it occurred to me one night at 4 a.m., I wonder if the office manager knows how what she does every day plays into these values and gets us to the goal that we have as a company. Like, I wonder if she understands how that is helping us or hurting us, what she does every day. And so I just had meetings with every single person and said, okay, here's our goal. Here's our, annual 3-5-year goal. Tell me how what you're doing every day is helping us get there. And if you don't know, awesome, let's talk about it. And let's bring your manager in and let's set this up so that we're on this cadence to review everybody based on how they're helping us progress toward the goal. That was helpful.
I'd add one more pivotal moment, which there's been many throughout the years, but I think it was really some big hiring decisions, like actually taking a risk. We're filled with a room. Salaries are not small. So it's a big risk. And early on, you make a miss, it's a big miss, and they hurt. So I think there was some really, I look around the room and I have an amazing team that's sitting throughout the crowd here, which is great. There were some really big decisions, and those were really impactful in a positive way.
This one's interesting. In Batman, the blind man tells him to jump like a kid without a rope. What was the biggest risk you took on without a safety net, and how did you adopt mid-flight?
That's, I would probably say some of the hiring decisions. That was, you miss, especially when we were less than 10 humans, they were big. There is no safety net, and it is, are you going to make payroll? I could tell you nightmares, all of us probably can. Early on, cash flow is king, and that is hard. And a customer doesn't pay you because they have some holiday and they let everyone out, and you're like, wait a minute, I was planning on that. So I'd say hiring decisions early on, that was some of my biggest risks.
Yeah, and I think it's important to move, when you realize you've made a mistake there, to move as quickly as possible. Not waste too much time on that, because I did the same exact thing. I would say we thought we were so cool and smart when we got the flywheel working, and we're like, okay, we have absolutely nailed this. So now, because our conversion rate is just amazing, if we just triple the marketing budget, obviously that's going to translate, and we're just going to make 3 times as much money, and that did not work.
The biggest decision was starting the company. We were bootstrapped. We never took a dime. I guess we did when we sold. So there was no safety net other than my dear husband and my partner's dear wife. They had great jobs, and we still sold the car. We took a loan on our 401k. I don't necessarily recommend that for people in the room. We got asked to go to I remember, side note, we got asked to go on this vacation, dream vacation to the BVI's. And we're like, I just started a company. I can't go on a trip. I can't spend any money. And so we sold our mountain bikes to go on that trip. So there was no safety net necessarily other than a spouse. But I also want to bring some perspective. When we had to make really big, risky decisions, and I went and thought, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? And the worst thing is never really the worst thing. The worst thing that's happened is we'd have to close the doors on the company. That's okay. I was still going to be fine. And better yet, I know every single employee we had was absolutely the most employable team in the whole world. They were all going to get jobs. So at some point, you got to just remember, this is not life or death. Typically, some people have businesses that do life or death. Project management, maybe. We had a couple clients maybe that were running life or death stuff. But for the most part, just have some perspective. Hiring, though, that is always risky. My advice to folks in the room that are bootstrapping is it's always good to hire one new leader every single year that just lifts the company more and more, but just do one at a time and do it kind of slowly. And that really kind of paid off and reduced the risk.
To add on to that, an additional question would be, if you were looking at hiring a leader into your company, for those in the room, what attributes would you look for in someone employable to add?
Quick one word, coachable. They must be coachable.
Good looking. They must be good looking. I chose a fantasy football team one year just based on looks alone, and I actually won. Close to won. They have confidence. Anyway, no, obviously that's not true. That they are on your team, that they are all in. And part of this too, when you're interviewing, is to get a feel. Obviously there's the HR, and you have to be careful, and I'm an attorney, so just take this with a grain of salt, but getting a feel. Well, I'm kidding. Okay, so finding out as much as you can about their family. And is their family on board? Is this a career choice? At that level, at an executive level, where you need somebody who you might be able to text at 4 a.m. and maybe they don't need to text you back, but where you can have that level of in it with you. Once you hire them, get to know their family, have a dinner, have them bring their spouses. That is a family effort. If you're asking an executive to care about your company, then that's time away that they're taking from their family. And you want their family to be on board. You want them to feel part of the team in an extended way. And so people who are open to that and willing have made the best executives that I've ever hired.
I call it my barbecue test. Would I have them over for a barbecue and enjoy the conversation? Can I understand them? Are they, understand their family, understand what their situation is, how they're going to show up? Are they, because you realize that they've got to pick up their kids at 4 or at 3, and they're going to be gone for 30 minutes, but also giving them the ability to do so and understanding that their wife has to travel. So just whatever that situation looks like, it's important to understand them. Also, I want someone who will challenge me, that is not intimidated by me, who I am, how I show up, how I communicate, that they will tell me when I have a bad idea. And I want them to tell me why, and we'll have a conversation about it. But I want someone who will challenge me.
Can we talk a little bit about the competition that you guys kind of led into, and
Yes.
how that has influenced
Yes, we can.
parts of your career?
Just in general?
Sure. Yeah. And also maybe talking about, competing in the marketplace as women.
Yeah.
As women leaders.
So one thing in this, and I will tell briefly how Stephanie and I met. It was pretty recently. We were at some Agent Force, whatever, and I was wearing an obnoxiously bright pink dress. And I walked by and she said, "I love your dress. Where'd you get it?" Or like, what, something. It would just like started that conversation, which ended up to be this beautiful friendship, beautiful conversation. We don't do that enough as women. We are seeing each other as competitors because if there's 10 seats at the table and only one room for one woman, we are competing against each other for that seat. And I think we really have to change that mindset. I think if there's something that I can do, well, not you, but if there's something that I can do to get you in that seat, right, then maybe you'll remember that. And then when you're at the seat, maybe there's a time when another one opens and then you pull me in. And so as women, we have to have each other's back and start looking at this as a movement to help get more seats at these tables, but it can't just be through competing because we're just knocking each other down.
I would say at the business level, if any of you are entrepreneurs inside of Salesforce, the biggest threat is Salesforce. And so in terms of competition in this ecosystem, I remember waking up, I think we were, I don't know, a month into our launch of TaskRay, and Salesforce announced do.com. Anyone? Anyone remember do.com? Thank you. And I just sat on the couch catastatic going, okay, like we lost. They're marketing geniuses. There's no way we are going to be able to compete against them. And I remember my partner, Eric, just had to sit there and like calmly talk me off the ledge. She's like, "What are you talking about? We're small, we're nimble, we're smart, we can do this." And it was just about kind of building me back up to go back and like fight another day. And here's the lesson I learned from that. Well, they are kind of a slow ship and they shut that thing down, paid $1 million for the domain. I mean, come on. So it was a kind of a big lesson. And I remember when Cloud Coach came out with some really like cool ski slope marketing. And I remember going like, oh, like point Cloud Coach. But the reality is you can't really pay attention to competition, right? Like that is a distraction. You've got to just focus on your customers and you're going to go okay. And then I echo everything about the women. To me, there is no competition when it comes to another woman. That is a special club. So.
Couple things to add on to it. First off, if there's anyone in the room who is considering starting either an SI or an ISV is already, there's a group called Wise Women in Salesforce Entrepreneurship. There's another wonderful lady over here. I see a few in the room that are part of it. We collaborate and build each other up. That's what we're trying to accomplish, is just sharing knowledge, sharing ideas, sometimes sharing resources to make sure that we can build each other's companies together. Because saying that there isn't ebbs and flows is not real. If someone tells you that, it's hard. It is a hard journey. And having someone where you're in a down and they might be up, working together just benefits the community. Salesforce can be a barrier. I was just in Chicago, and I'll share this reel 6 weeks ago at a partner event, and they presented all these things that they're asking us to do. And I'm like, okay, that's great. After his presentation, I went and sat down with the gentleman who is presenting. I said, hey, we're doing these things. We're going through this process. This is feedback. We want to be better. And he looked at me and he goes, so let me tell you how this Salesforce partnership works since you're new to the ecosystem. I'm like, hold up. I've been doing this for 15 years and 10 years in business. Nobody said, like, other than I'm a woman, how am I different than the other 89 men that are in this room? Like, why did you just assume that I'm new? So it's frustrating. Trying to overcome those boundaries, they still exist. There's still someone putting a hand on us and holding us down, and we just have to be better together.
Can we do a quick time check? I forgot to start my timer. 15, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, any questions from the audience? Well, I'm going to ask one for those who might be thinking about starting their own company, maybe not confident enough to speak up, but if you had any advice or want to tell your story about what triggered you to start a company.
So triggered me final was when I was told at 9 months pregnant, which some of you might have heard this story, that I wasn't considered for the COO position. And that was my final. I'm like, you know what? I put my heart and soul in everything I do. And I can't be behind an organization that isn't supporting me because I'm going to have a little human. That's just was not my. So advice, be humble. I think when I started the company, I thought that people expected me to know how to do XYZ. So whether that's operations or payroll or whatever, marketing or sales, like they just expected me. So I didn't ask questions. So I didn't rely on the community that I actually had around me if I would have leaned into it more, because I thought that everyone thought I should know it. And if I didn't, I'd look silly. So I have learned I know nothing. And go into it with that mindset.
The first company I started was a law firm, and I got to the point, I was at this huge law firm in Detroit. I'm from Detroit. And the moment that I realized, oh, I'm not allowed to be myself here at this place. And I kept trying to be myself, and I kept trying to bring things to the table and cases that I wanted to take and these things, and it was just rejected, and it was, speak when spoken to. And I get it. I was young, associate attorney on the totem pole, but I just thought, I'm bringing this value to my clients based on who I am, not who the firm is. I'm the one delivering these services. And then it was just a quick math calculation to see what they were making off of me and what I could if I just brought those services direct to the client, which are the same services, it's still me, that it was more appealing financially, but also I had the ability to take the kinds of cases that I wanted. And I think if you find yourself in a position where you're having to compromise who you are, the world is missing out on who you are because you're the only one of you here. And that person and who you are needs to be appreciated, and it needs to be exploited in all of the best ways for what the world can get from you. So if that's being compromised, then it's time to move on, either to a different company or to start your own thing.
I have a similar story to Stephanie's in that I always worked for VC-backed companies and didn't really feel like a lot of power in those decisions. And the first company I worked for, I did not have any maternity benefits. The second company I worked for, they were just getting, what is it called, FMLA? They were required to provide like AFLAC, injury, disability services for being pregnant, but they told me I had a pre-existing condition, which I was pregnant. So I went through 2 companies without any maternity benefits, no time off, right? So when Eric and I got together, it was a very values-driven decision. We were tired of VC-backed companies. We were tired of bullshit. We just wanted to do something a little differently. And I think we accomplished that. In fact, we founded on the birthday of his first child, and we're very proud to offer paid benefits to mothers and fathers. But the humbling thing was, I don't know what year this was, maybe 5 or 7 into TaskRay. There was 2 women on my team. I can't remember if one of them was pregnant or they were thinking about having babies, and they're like, your maternity benefits suck. I was like, are you kidding me? But they weren't wrong. I think we paid, I don't know, is there 6 weeks or 12 weeks, but they're like, come on, like moms need more time with their babies. And so don't stop learning, don't stop progressing. And I'm really proud of those women because I was on the defensive and they weren't wrong.
Okay, but I have a question. This is a real question. So as a CEO, I wanted to be like, yes, let's pay these women. They're going to be gone for 3 months. It's okay. But who's doing their job? How's that work getting done? Like, how did you deal with that?
So we don't have time to answer that question, but Heather and I have started a podcast called Not All Business, right? This is a great plug. And the whole point of our podcast, this is my little plug, is we call it Sex Education for Leadership. And it's really about answering all the questions you want answered. You might be too afraid to ask. There might not be a platform to ask them. And we're just trying to like cover all the sticky situations when our personal lives, like Stephanie was saying, and our professional lives blend together. And that's a very sticky situation. As a business owner, that's real. And I'm going to save it for the podcast.
To give yourself time to come up with an answer. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Are we?
Any questions from the audience? Yes, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
And now, please, tell us everything.
Sure. Hi, I have a question for Heather. You made a comment about the being a witchy woman, and that you feel like you have to speak less. Do you feel like when you are trying to speak less, you feel like you're making yourself smaller, just to make other people more comfortable? And adding on to that, do you still feel like you get your point across? And do you find that everybody in the room has to do the same?
It's a great question, and it's a clarifying one. Thank you for bringing that up. So when I said speak less, I really meant say less words to get my point across. Be more concise, and choose the moments where maybe the idea has exhausted itself, and maybe, we're kind of circling back. See, I always say all the stupid words, but circling back on the topic. But there is way more patience to let an executive man ramble and keep people's attention, even if it's going nowhere. There's a respect, there's eye contact, there's nodding along, because regardless of whether or not the people agree, they just feel like they should be. And they're just saying, yep, yep. And maybe they're slacking the guy on the side, being like, what the fuck is this guy even talking about? But there's like a respect there. And if a woman, and I'm not saying, like, this has happened to me, so this is real experiences. If I am talking and it goes on for longer than I said, to 10, 15 seconds, there's a disengagement. They stop listening. And so in those moments, especially if you're new to the room, once you've established relationships, I think you get that level of respect and it's earned over time. But if you're new in the room, you've got 10 or 15 seconds to make that first impression. And if someone's like, okay, that sounds smart. Why does that sound smart? Then maybe they're looking up, what's her background again? Why is she speaking with this kind of authority? Why should I listen to her? That doesn't happen for men. If a guy is standing there and he is sounding smart, people are like, yes, this guy knows what he's talking about. Hell yeah, yes. We don't have that. There's got to be this secondary check thing. So rather than just piping in and trying to be heard and say as much as I can and hope someone hears it, I find it's more effective to sit back, listen, choose your moment, and say it as concise as possible to get to be heard.
It's like kids pick your battle, right? Yeah. Do you ever enjoy just like waiting 10, 15 seconds, making the room nervous, and then responding?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Do we have any other questions for the panel?
All right, we've moved to so many of us working remotely. We've got so many Zoom meetings. We have to listen to salespeople. We have to listen to men. How do you control your face? I might invest in Botox.
Yeah, I do a little bit of that.
I don't control my face. Every single emotion is on my face at all times, and it has gotten me into trouble my whole life. So I'm going to let Stephanie answer that question for real. Actually, I will say I had a coach that kind of bridged that question and your question, and she said, I don't know if this, I'm going to paraphrase, but sometimes as a woman, we've been trained to overshare, overtalk, over-explain, like it's like we're talking to our children. And it kind of echoed what you said, Heather, is your company doesn't need to hear all of that. Like some of that stuff you just need to hold back. They don't need to hear every single thing, but I'm an external processor, so it's really, really hard for me, but it was good. I would call that good leadership coaching, not necessarily female coaching. It was good leadership coaching, but I don't know about the face thing. I get Botox too.
There you go. Okay. So I love this question because when we were going through due diligence right before the PE acquisition in 2023, we had our attorney who was on our side, negotiating all the things. We'd be on these calls and they would be 2-3 hours long. It was exhausting and very boring. And the company, the PE fund, they're Dutch and they're wonderful. And we love Main Capital, but they're Dutch. And so there's like zero personality and like very strict to the point. So I would always try to bring in levity whenever I could just to like keep awake, basically. So then the attorney texts me on the side and he says, "You're smiling too much." Yeah, he said, "You're smiling too much. We have to play hardball." And I'm like, my smile has nothing to do with whether or not we sign this deal. Like it's still, we still have negotiating power. I'd rather just be myself. And if the Dutch don't want to work with someone who smiles, that's okay. Like with that, if that's what they're going to put into it. But the worst thing I could do would be not be honest and authentic to who I am to try to push something through. So I pushed back on that. I kept smiling. And yeah, I don't really hide it very much. It's kind of written on my face. Yeah.
I would agree, and Botox also. So 3 in. Yes, they do. That's yeah. The men do it as well. So I don't hold back. Sometimes I don't share my video, actually, a lot. I'm on 8 to 10 hours a day of meetings. A lot of days, like I won't share my video, and if I do, there's really great filters. Like that they kind of soften out the facial features, give me some makeup. Like it makes for a much quicker get ready in the morning.
Yeah, I bet. So. But I will say on that too, I am a little bit the opposite with the camera on. Like I make everybody have their camera on just because I think that's the only hope that I can tell if people are engaged or not engaged. So what I do though is I set the bar very low. Like, and if there's not a client on the call, then I'm showing up how I'm showing up in that moment. There's not like a camera ready situation. Just is what it is.
I also, the old, like, don't take how's it go? Don't take me being nice for, what is the quote in there? For being clueless, like that stupidity, right. Like, or that I can't stand up to something. Yeah. That I don't have a backbone. Like people think just because you're smiling and that you don't know something. I'm like, not quite, but I'll smile and let you think that. So.
All right, well, it looks like it's lunchtime. So we're going to wrap up this session. I know that they'd be happy to answer any questions. So please find Blakely, Heather, and Stephanie.
Listen to their podcast.
Listen to the podcast.
Excited for it to launch. It's on our LinkedIn page. So if you need linked out, these ladies are brilliant and wonderful humans. And she was wearing a gorgeous pink dress. It was amazing. On that, if you have any questions on the SI side, happy to answer those. We do have FirmWorks files. There's like 3 free licenses out there. So if you download it from the App Exchange, got to put my little plug in there. Yeah, fun. Thank you guys.